Good afternoon and welcome to the January 25th, 2024 meeting of the Fitchburg Historical Commission. We'll now bring this meeting to order. Please be advised that FATV is conducting an audio and video recording of this meeting for public broadcast. Seeing as we have no guests here, we will begin our meeting. Present, we have Don Ostrowski and Andy Lepasti, myself, Keith Cheneau, which is a quorum of our 5 members that we currently have with the commission. Our agenda, which is on the screen here, hopefully have a copy of the agenda.
Yes.
No, not Ben. Number 1, public comment period. We've received none by email or other transactions and no guests present. Number 2, review and approve minutes of the December 14th, 2023 meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve things?
Approve the revised and corrected version
Okay.
of the minutes.
Yeah, I had one correction and not anybody else did.
I got that edit. That's it.
Is there a second approving the amended?
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. That's unanimous. Number 3, annual election of chair and secretary. Each January, by our rules, we elect a chair and a secretary for the commission. Do I hear any nominations?
Nominate Keith for chair. No.
Okay. And any other nominations for secretary?
Oh, for secretary.
We can do it all at once.
Okay. And nominate Andy for
I
secretary.
can do it.
Andy, if you agree to, I reluctantly agree to continue on for another year. And since there's no other nominations, a motion to re-elect the current chair and secretary, Keith Cheneau and Andy Lepasti, respectively.
And I would just like to say that I think you both are doing a superb job.
And Andy's really
Very
dug into us.
Oh, thanks. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, thank you, and everybody's working hard, and we will continue on. Both Ellen DiGeronimo and Charles Sternmalo said they weren't able to make it today, but we certainly have some input from them, and we'll move forward. Okay, moving on. Item number 4. This is something that Ellen has encouraged us to take a look at it. Nationally, May is Preservation Month for around our country, and Ellen is suggesting that we let's see. Let me see if I put this up on the screen also for anyone watching. Let's see. That's taking a look at this. Well, anyhow, we'll try to bring this up, wasting time on trying to get the electronics here. Thought it might be good as a kind of a focus and the community-wide focus on preservation. And coinciding with May as Preservation Month, select a date and location to perhaps have an event kind of celebrating and discussing the importance of preservation for the city. And it could be also a good time to kind of launch the printed copy of our Downtown Historic District brochure that we've been working on, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And an official announcement of it and presentation of it perhaps. To recognize current and recent preservation projects, perhaps with PowerPoint images.
That's a great, I have to say, that's a great idea because I don't know if it's generally known the number of preservation projects that are going, and even, it's easy to overlook. Even when people come before a commission, but those months ago or a year ago, and then, oh, now who was that? When was that?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
To have a listing.
Yeah, and images of it.
And images,
right. This is certainly public invited. It could be something that we have in a central location, perhaps in the Historical Society's lobby, or maybe some function here at City Hall, or a good publicly accessible spot. Sure. Where we could have a nice crowd come to. So those details are things that kind of need to work out, but obviously buildings like the Warren Square Syndicate building, recent, not too far in the past, City Hall, the B.F. Brown City Stables, and the old Academy building in process of renovation, the plans for the theater block, the Albert Johnson Haywood Furniture River Street project. These are some that are, some of these are National Register type of properties, but other buildings that are not necessarily National Register property, but certainly historic resources, such as a couple buildings on Upper Main Street where the new coffee shop is. Also, I can't think of the names of them. Not the Proctor block, but just on the other side of Central Street. New offices, and it might be an eatery in there also. The next building up Main Street here on the right hand side, just past the theater building. Then there's Central Street, and then there's Proctor Building, Historical Society, and the
Grand Cafe.
Yeah. Along with some other buildings along Main Street that are hosting historic markers and things like that. So there's a lot of great things happening.
Lucy's Farm part of it.
Yeah. And
Did you mention the library, or that's like just a?
that could be, that's kind of a, hopefully a preservation project, but we retaining, sure, the library could be in there.
The Bay Club, they've done a lot of work on the Bay Club.
Yeah.
I guess that counts as preservation.
And hopefully maybe some idea what would be happening with the courthouse at that time also.
Who wrote this, Keith? Okay, is this your draft or Ellen's or?
This is my draft, and those I took and talking about that one. So she's going to send out another copy of what her ideas also. So.
Okay.
Great. This is my recording of what Ellen and I talked about.
this may not be the right place to talk about it or raise it maybe under another item on the agenda, but oral history, getting Ellen in particular, getting her on videotape, getting her interviewed about her recollections and memories. She's an invaluable resource.
Yeah.
And for future historians,
Yeah.
they would love to have a videotaped interview with someone of Ellen's experience.
This list of topics that she could choose and so forth. And I'm sure there's others also in the city, looking at some of the Facebook posts of the various Fitchburg groups and the comments of so many of the people like Ellen that have good mental history of their times in Fitchburg and perhaps their parents and their grandparents' issues and involvement with the city. So this is
and we get the Historical Society involved, as well as the university. The university could be, a class project.
yeah.
And I think May Preservation Month would be a great time to do something like that.
Yeah. It could be something that we just at Fitchburg State.
You could do the production at the society, historical society.
Oh, you can?
Yeah, well, I think Susan's even done one or two there already. So, she might have a camera, like a FATV camera she's been using for that. So we would just, come up with the questions and set a date and time with them.
Yeah, and they're doing some great work with those things too. So, and just maybe, taking this, kind of once a year, taking this public forum, celebrating preservation in our city, in kind of all forms, including, not just buildings and landmarks, and build types of things, but
Preserving memory.
Yes, and that's kind of what our commissioners goals are for to help preserve those things. So as a tool, maybe we can help some of this happen.
Ellen's definitely got the memories of what was going on in the city for decades.
Very sharp.
Yeah.
And maybe using that as kind of a public invitation to everyone, the citizens and people that have been involved with the city, maybe have moved to Albuquerque or wherever else they're kind of listening in, or whatever, to be able to make sure they're involved in it also. Fitchburg State is, last semester I had a class that was coordinating with the Historical Society and again, recording pieces of history that I sat on as some of their final work. It included some articles on immigration to the city, some articles on the industry of the city, and the founding of the town of Fitchburg, and some pieces on John Fitch, which are being prepared in a public addressable format or online type of format that people can access these perhaps easily also. So Fitchburg State's doing some interesting things like campus student research projects. And looking at Fitchburg specifically, and being able to take that to their own communities and understand civic importance of heritage of their communities that they live in, their adopted community for the years here at school here.
Yeah, Monument Park to number 2 also.
Yep.
Be good to mention it, just to, so the public knows, trying to get it fixed up. Right?
Ongoing.
Ongoing.
I'd like to see things that have some real action happen on those, but
Yeah.
right there. Makes them awareness of that. Sure. Been on our agenda for a few years. Sure. And also, perhaps have, as participants would be our commission, historical society, the mayor, the community development department, Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority, local representatives perhaps could be, it could be as some of it could be kind of like a panel presentation, if you will, along with the PowerPoint images, et cetera, of various things. Some brief remarks. Community development, it could be a good forum for them addressing the planning goals of the city, of what the visions and the ways that the city is providing incentives and through zoning and through marketing, et cetera, to enhance Pittsburgh in general, in particular the downtown area. And basically, we're seeing a lot of things like changing from a commercial center to changing into a multi-use center, including lots of urban living spaces, et cetera, also as a place to use it. How it changes and how we can use our heritage to help intensify or make the setting, if you will. Community development could talk about the tax credits for National Register and State Register buildings. And the community development also has a long listing of other incentives. There are state-funded programs and even perhaps even some federal programs for commuter cities, gateway cities, and for development, and particularly of walkable downtowns that are available to people that are looking to restore their buildings. And kind of thing I had as a retired architect, that the reuse of existing buildings is the highest form of green building. In retrofitting an existing building, and that's 50 to 75% less carbon than constructing the same new building or a new building of the same size. So it has
You notice the typo.
Yeah.
Which one? Existing buildings. The fourth word.
Yes, I got it.
Okay.
There they are. Thank you. And then we have some press coverage. Certainly FATV might record it, and it would be on their channel for replay.
Yeah, it's very important to emphasize that reuse of buildings is more energy efficient than building, because the default, as we know, is, well, tear down the old building and build a new building. And that's exactly the wrong thinking.
And it's just energy wise, there's the energy that's already put into existing buildings, like City Hall, we're but, the, to rebuild the outer shells and the roofs and all of those particular things, it involves demolition, there's storage and transportation of all the demolition, all the issues with excess trash and where does it go? And then, all the remanufacturing of all those materials that are gone and to replace it with new materials, their energy footprint, their transportation to the site, the additional labor, et cetera, could be forced, certainly in other things. So it's something that, the energy aspect of buildings is something that we can also use it as an information about preservation. Maybe it's kind of going from that, and also having maybe a piece on our website about carbon footprint demolition versus reuse of buildings. So kind of up for discussion, other things that we might want to add here. When I talked with Ellen a few minutes ago, she was thinking of a date of maybe setting a date for this particular May piece as perhaps being.
That's a good idea, because I find that unless one sets a date.
Yeah, right.
May passes, and you say, wait a minute, we were going to do something in May.
Yeah. And this is something we should coordinate with other calendars in the city to make sure we're not overlapping.
Conflict.
She was saying something like the next to last week in May, but I would say probably any of the middle weeks in May would be maybe a good time to have it. The last week is getting into Memorial Day, which is on the 27th, so this year.
Where were you thinking of holding something like this?
Where? I think it's easy to walk into the Historical Society main floor.
Yeah, the main.
It's something we would certainly have to coordinate with Susan and the staff there. And we haven't talked with them yet. So this is kind of the beginning idea.
Right.
And it's something that and I think we should get behind this idea is to start planning right now for this. And maybe get a planning meeting going in the next maybe couple weeks with interested parties, and certainly the Historical Society, us, and community development, and certainly mention it to the mayor's office. And coordinate with other events that might be planned by the city or the cultural council or the Historical Society, et cetera, so we're not bumping into each other in some point. So,
Well, they certainly have a good meeting space there, right on the main.
yeah, and it's a great walk-in space.
Sort of walk-in space.
It's just off the street from here. And I don't know, is as a kind of a mini action plan. When, maybe having a planning meeting. Maybe is the week of February 4th too soon? That's like 2 weeks from now. Our next historical commission meeting is, something like, leap day.
Yeah.
I think it should be, you know, a separate meeting, not one, thing we have, is kind of our fall meetings. Because it's kind of a focus on this. It could be here at City Hall. You know, maybe we could even meet the planning office or one of these rooms.
Or if you can do like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday afternoon. Could even be at the Historical Society. Cause it's open.
That's what Susan's. Yeah.
And that's what Susan's there.
Yeah.
Maybe if you wanna do that week or the week after.
The 12th, 13th, 14th.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day.
Oh, relaxing. Well, I can still do it in the afternoon.
Yeah, I can't do the 13th.
You having classes again, Tuesdays?
Yes.
Okay, good, good to know.
Yeah, I'd go for like a Monday or a Wednesday. And like a 1 o'clock or a 3 o'clock range. Yeah.
Other scheduled meetings at the Historical Society and any of those days or board meetings or anything?
We've just gone through a bunch of meetings, so that's why I'm thinking that week might be pretty good.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Good. So in general, you know, great idea. I think that Ellen has presented. And with your thoughts and backing, we'll try to move ahead with this and start invite some people, see if we can put out a meeting time check. Anybody else that
I like the idea of, showing some PowerPoint images during the presentation. So you actually get visuals of what's being worked on and preserved.
Yeah. And Mike, I know that farther down on the agenda, with Ellen's project she is also working on is kind of looking at kind of all of the buildings up and down Main Street, the existing buildings, whether they're in districts or not, and creating a document where there's for each address we have the building owner's contact information, and that there is a page or a section made with a photograph of the building, a brief history of the building, and any details about the building that there is, and just kind of reminding property owners, particularly on Main Street here, of some of the heritage of their particular properties.
And that raises a question that keeps occurring to me, walks and dog along Main Street. Ren mentioned it as we were driving down. And some of the buildings, historic, at some point, someone decided to put on a facade that was it's just totally inappropriate. What would be involved in taking off a facade like that and restoring a bit of the original integrity?
Yeah. Some examples of that are more than the new coffee shops and then things are happening just up the street here, by the Historical Society. There's a couple of buildings, the one just beyond the theater block here, and the coffee, the new coffee shop up there. I've done some research and some beginnings of kind of restoration of a similar type of facade and remove some of the other pieces. And the city does the community development, have some storefront information and perhaps some funding for things like that. To help understanding there's a cost to those pieces. But it's true with a lot of the buildings that, particularly commercial buildings, when modernization was a trend or a fad to redo the storefronts in a now consider a demeaning manner. It lost a lot of the heritage. Examples of that are the old YMCA building, even Safety Fund Bank, where the new view is, the apartments and so forth are above, where the whole bottom and sometimes 2 floors are up. Facades have been greatly altered in some way or another. Some of the storefronts are still pretty close to the buildings that haven't changed that much, or you can still see some of the cast iron columns that were used as, being able to put more glass in front of your building in the days. The structural pieces that were quite often very nicely decorative pieces. The Historical Society did a great job in creating the storefronts back, very similar to the original. When that insurance company had its offices upstairs, and there were commercial establishments on the ground floor and apartments on the 4th and 5th floor or something like that, I think. So it was really a great multi-use type of use in the 1890s and 1800s.
So community development, one word through community development, there might be some funding.
Yes, if you want community development website and do kind of a deep down in it, I've gone to a few kind of public presentations, things that they have done in years past, where there's certainly these funds out there that can help urban city help with urban city issues such as helping to get storefronts restored, or even kind of overall funding. So we have certain goals and that walkability to the train station for smart city type growth pieces, etc. There's issues in upgrading buildings. Sometimes it's handicap access or creating proper up-to-date egress and requirements for particularly the upper floors of having 2 means of egress and in some cases handicap access to those particular units or rental rooms, which can be daunting and costly to kind of make the leap into changing over. So the programs are out there, and that's something maybe in our initial meeting we could have Liz and her group share with us, that we could, as a preservation month piece, here are some tools that property owners and prospective property owners should be looking at for preservation efforts.
Yeah, and in particular, this YMCA building that ran, it just
Yeah.
jumped out at her.
Yeah,
It's,
Yeah.
especially that first floor, the first layer. When it became a bank building. There's also, I think about the building across from the library. I think it's called the Park Building now. But it's just like a solid plain brick wall. You know, there's nothing there.
right,
There's no design features on it at all.
Correct.
The former church there and
yes,
hardware store, Central Hardware Store.
I know, it's so nondescript.
Yeah, that's one of the worst buildings in town for nothing on it.
That's right.
Yeah. And it's right in the middle of downtown.
We have to ask, or at least I ask myself, what were they thinking?
Yeah, all right.
Maybe they weren't.
Right.
Yeah, this is a great idea, this
Yeah,
activities for May preservation funds.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think this initial meeting will help us kind of gel some of the directions, some might be important pieces to it. Having maybe some representatives and things from state government here also
yeah.
to say, yes, we have these funds, this is, you know, we can help you try to get these or not. And just, you know, maybe the invitations, you know, publicizing this, so you know, discussing how we can make the community aware of it. Perhaps contacting all Main Street business owners, if you will, by getting their addresses to the settlers' offices, and maybe the public notice could go out to them. Also, you know, we plan it before we come back, you know, the audience that we're kind of seeking. So those are things that, you know, to make it a successful and a meaningful thing, and we're not just preaching to the choir that outreach is important.
It seems to me that this is something the mayor's office would be very interested in.
Yeah, and they think, yeah, this is, you know, success of the city, and it's, you know, it's an ongoing piece. Yeah, and I'm sure they understand the value and what this is about. So having a celebration and a information session in May, Preservation Month, would be again a good thing. The focus on our community and having the brochure hand out at that time and other
Yeah, that'd be
pieces
great.
is kind of a goal.
Yeah.
So,
Priority is setting the date for it. And
yeah.
so you can announce the date for all this, and the public people, because they'll have busy calendars.
Well, at this point, you know, I appreciate it, you do, you know, take it, you know, strong look at this again, and if you have any other thoughts. In the meantime, I'll talk with Ellen, and we'll try to set up some meeting dates and with interested parties, and certainly people here at City Hall and with the Historical Society, and see if we can move this. We have a couple months to do it, but making it successful is getting some of this early planning. Great. We move on.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Update on Monument Park repairs. This, I've done some correspondence. I don't really have any good updates. I contacted Public Works Director to see if, he's had a chance to contact the architects that's working on some other preservation projects for the city and haven't heard back. On the park bench, this is the latest version of the park bench sponsorship program. Just for anyone that's and watching this replay in the future, the Parks Commission and the Historical Commission are jointly sponsoring a park bench sponsorship program where individuals or groups can help purchase new park benches for Monument Park. A bench is $2,000 and the full bench is $3,500. Each sponsorship comes with a plaque that's mounted on the back of the park bench. There will be, I believe, a total of 8 new benches installed, 2 in each of the 4 corners of the park. And your bronze plaque can have inscription or dedication to your family or business or whatever you'd like to have on that inscription. So, park bench sponsorship. I'd ask we could get some more printed up brochures in our mailbox. Didn't check the mailbox yet today. But we could pass it out if you have acquaintances and things that we can. I can send a digital copy if this one wants to need copies. Any other thoughts or info on Monument Park? Preservation.
Have you been through there lately, Don?
No dogs allowed.
Do they still have? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
I've got a socket wrench.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll just go
Sawzall.
and get arrested.
Yeah.
Vandalize city property.
Yeah, really.
Well, it's good move. All right. Next on the agenda is an update on historic buildings demolition delay.
Yeah, I sent Keith this is the Springfield, Massachusetts, and demolition delay. And the way they're doing it, it's kind of interesting, and we may want to consider it. Well, first of all, the intent and purpose. I really like what they have, the last sentence in that first section. This chapter promotes the public welfare by making the city a more attractive and desirable place in which to live and work. And so if you're opposed to the demolition delay, you're opposed to making Fitchburg a more attractive and desirable place in which to work. So we might think about borrowing that words to that effect, because I think that captures the spirit of what we have in mind. They have a bunch of definitions. Probably a good idea to have definitions. Just to
I
be.
think your current draft has definitions.
It does have definitions, and I haven't compared their definitions with our definitions, but it's even from a legal aspect, it's good to have definitions. And what in terms of the process, what they do is, when we talked with Mark, and he was saying, well, he doesn't feel that he can determine whether it's historical or not. And what Springfield does, in contrast, apparently to Leominster, where there seems to be a good relationship between our they're on the same page, between the building commissioner and the historical commission. And so they seem to, as far as I can determine, they seem to be working closely together. Now, what Springfield does is they say all buildings 75 years or older and or in historic districts are, what's the term? Historically, that then so then oh yeah, there it is. Of the exemption. And the idea is the default is that a building 75 years or older or in the historic district is considered historically significant. Okay. Automatically. So there doesn't have to be any decision, and we can use the macros list for this. Yeah, there's going to be some building, and they talk about, well, what if the building commissioner doesn't know whether the building is 75 years, the age of the building, and if it's not in a historic district. That gets, in Springfield, that gets reverted to the historical commission to make that determination. So it's in their, I think it's in their documents, but the point is that, you know, one of the objections, not from Mark, but somebody, one of our online residents said, well, why does a property owner have to wait 6 months to demolish buildings? And what Springfield does is they have an exemption form. So a property owner can say, okay, this building is 75 years or older, or it's in historic history, but these are the reasons why I think it should be exempt from the process of the demolition delay. And that's something that, you know, there are legitimate reasons. Safety hazard for one thing, fire hazard for another. That one may indeed want to, and if the building itself is 75 years old, but it doesn't really have much historical significance. Like, I don't know, triple deckers, not that they don't necessarily have historical significance, but there are plenty of triple deckers and so there's not a historically significant reason to preserve any particular triple decker, even if it's 7 years old. So these are things that so it's kind of a reversal of what the default is. Right now, I think our wording is that the building commissioner, or at some point, a decision has to be made whether this a building will go through the process of the demolition delay ordinance. But Springfield says all buildings 75 years or older are in historic districts.
Mhm.
Have to go through that process unless there's an exception.
Yeah.
So the,
Yeah, and again, it's, you know, it's a little bit just in the wording, but it kind of comes across a little bit more understandable. I, one thing about or in a historic district, might want to, if we use that wording, might want to be careful because there's different definitions of historic districts. There's National Register historic districts, which would be probably a good thing. To include, and there's local historic districts such as our monument park. Some cities have lots of local historic districts under their domain, and the National Register districts are like the Warren Square National Register Historic District. It includes probably maybe 50 or 60 buildings in it, for a lot of them are contributing and so on. And if they could be, some of the buildings might be less than 75 years old.
right, so their definition of preferably preserved building is any building within the city of Springfield which is 75 years old or older, as reported by the assessor, or any building which is listed on or is within a district listed on the National Register of Historic Places. So we can tweak that, to make it more compatible with the
Yeah.
because we could
Listed
use
National Register and local historic.
and also the macros. So it's reported by the assessor. Well, I guess we do. I suppose the assessor uses the macros. I would think so.
You know, if you look at the assessor's site, each building has a date to it.
Okay.
And it was for a time anything before 1900, which is certainly more than 75 years ago, which is listed as 1900. Although some of that has been updated to reflect 1800 dates and so forth. The assessors, if there is a building that has a built date on it, has been determined by how the assessors create them. So it's quite easy to go to the assessor's site, put in an address, and see the whole history of the building, or at least the build date is on there. So as far as processing the demolition permit is concerned, when it comes into, say, the building commissioner's office that handles demolition permits, the commissioner or probably a assignee, a clerk or whatever would look up the address, note what the date is, and at that point, they notify the applicant that this will automatically go into in their cases, a 9-month demolition delay.
Mm-hmm.
And if they'll also notify them that if they want the application for exemption, the demolition delay, they can fill out this form and send the application. The clerk should also, or in the building commissioner's office, being in a clerk, when they get this, they would also have to be aware of the historic district boundaries and whether or not that particular address.
So we should give them a copy of our brochure.
Yeah, would fall in, obviously the Monument Park District, they should have that on their shelf right away, which the new building commissioners actually request that information. I send them a copy of the rules and regs that show you the boundaries of the Monument Park local historic district.
Mm-hmm.
But the National Register districts that we include it that way, and I don't know if that's important. Yeah, I think all buildings 75 years or older would be, in most cases, would, and, you know, they would all be 75 years or older also, so it wouldn't be an issue. Maybe in the Warren Square National Register District, there's that new building that's the cooking kitchen and experimental restaurant thing that's the corner of Willow, perhaps, or nearby. That building is pretty, no, I don't know if any of the existing building is there anymore. It used to be pretty much cycle work, and something before that. It's a fairly new construction, and that would probably not fall into the 75-year piece, so it would be okay. Maybe just including the local historic district, which might be the library, would be a newer building in that area. 1967, is that 75 years old yet? No, not quite. It was 65 or something like that. Yeah,
So
so
49 to today is 75 years.
67 from 2000 is 33 plus 24, 57 years old. So
Yeah, so, if we're amenable to this, I think I would like to revise I think we have 50 years right now,
yeah,
and 6 months delay. I don't see any reason to change the 6 months to the 9 months at
have
Springfield.
we dropped it to 6?
I think we did, maybe not.
I think it was a year.
It was, yeah, okay.
Dropping it to,
All right.
maybe dropping,
So we still have it at a year,
yeah,
all right?
I think. But, I don't know, your thoughts? You know, should we look at a new draft of the,
Yeah,
and kind of with maybe your suggestion of changing the wording to be simpler and understandable.
and the rationale for it, I think.
Yeah,
I read that and was, Springfield is not known particularly for its beauty. Not to put down Springfield, but,
it's similar to Pittsburgh. It's, it's a struggling old mill town.
That's right.
And there's other, there's other communities in the Pioneer Valley there that are Tony and
Great Barrington.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then preservation is kind of on the top of their list, and some of the old mill towns, it's, we're slowly, our population is beginning to understand the importance of preservation of our heritage. That's what we're working.
Okay. All right, so I will revise, along with demolition delay and send it out. To recommend.
What's our delay length right now, Don, that we have in there? 1 year or?
I think it was a year.
Is it a year?
We want us to look at
Perhaps change.
6 months or 9 months?
It is just a delay. And, a building owner or property owner with, any savvy, which most of them have, is going to understand there's a demolition delay and plan ahead and make it a permit, 1 year ahead of time. If he doesn't use it, he doesn't use it, something like that. a small fee to pay for the demolition permit. And they can still not do it, but just to get the time frame done, okay, it's the delay period of 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. It is gone, and they'll still tear the building down. They have that right. Certainly, they should have that right. It's their property.
And the building commissioner can issue the license to demolish it.
Yeah, in which he's obligated to do if he follows the regulations for, and if the time period's up, then they certainly can do that. The delay is really for us to do any action and work with the property owner. The onus comes on to us, the commission, that create this ordinance to, contact the property owner to discuss options, to look at different ways of, reasons for, obviously the person has reasons for creating a demolition, and ways of seeing to, mitigate the issue. And there's still going to be a hearing process, I think, or during that delay period. Or so somehow we need to be in the regulation, we need to be aware of the applicant coming in, so we have an opportunity to contact the building owner, right, and then perhaps get in a dialogue with alternatives that they may want to consider. And this is really just a suggestion. Dialogue time, we could do this for 6 months or 9 months or a year. And then either go forward with an alternative piece or they demolish building and continue on.
One thing I noticed was that Springfield instituted this in 2013.
Yeah, some of that date.
Which was just about when we were proposing it initially to the city council.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, Springfield is a similar.
But they passed it, and we didn't get it passed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they were successful and we weren't.
Right.
Do you have a delayed doc now? And I know you had like a second one, right? Like an information doc.
Yeah, I'll send that up.
I think those are something I could give to a business owner in town to look at, or
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'll make these
or if
changes.
you want to
and I'll
make
send
changes
you-
first. Okay.
Make sure you put draft
On it.
and the
Draft.
and the date.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
draft date.
Mhm.
Cool. Yeah, it's a good find. I like a lot of the things they say.
Mhm. Yeah, the that definition of a preserved building, see, that was even amended in 2022. That's a pretty recent change.
Oh, I didn't see that.
So they reworked that particular definition. The one where it says 75 years or older. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else in demo delay? Number 7, update on application preservation of historic stone walls and structures.
Yeah, I'm still working on that resource book. Robert Thorson has had a couple articles that I want to include. I think I sent them out or sent links. So you,
Yeah.
and he's very active in being a proponent of preserving these stone walls. He's talking, he's focusing quite rightly, I think, on the earlier stone walls, but in Pittsburgh, we have, as you pointed out, Keith, we have granite from a local clay quarry in town, and that is an additional historically significant aspect of the stone walls in Pittsburgh.
Sure.
So, yeah, I think the person said something about it was, if you put all the stone walls in New England together, it would be longer than the Great Wall of China.
Right. Cool.
You know, more mass than the Great Wall of China, right? It's so big.
Yes.
And the length would go around the earth. It's at least 24,000 miles of stone walls in the New England area or something.
Go around the earth 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that author's name again?
Robert Thurston.
The last name again?
Thorstph.
Thorse.
TH.
Thorse.
Thanks.
Um,
No.
in that, you had mentioned a book about beavers making dams, and historically, and I just ended up reading that book and learned on it. And the author makes comments about stone walls in New England also, and some of it being kind of built into some of the current beaver dams and things that she started talking about it, and particularly in Connecticut, where she's studying beaver dams, particularly in the two. She got into pieces of kind of referenced that author about the stone walls, and also her findings of, particularly in that Connecticut area that used to be part of Massachusetts, actually, in early colonial times, and Massachusetts colonial government at the time would give out grants to certain properties and stuff, which included the Woodstock area of Connecticut, et cetera. So they were actually Massachusetts residents that, or colonists, if you will, that moved into that area. But looking back on records, that they certainly cohabitated, just like John Fitch cohabitated with the indigenous people of our area at the time. There was, when John Fitch was here, and he was abducted, or his family was abducted by the Native Americans. That was a political statement, maybe similar to the Gaza Wars, if you will, abducting Israeli people, taking them to another spot. They took hostages to Canada, and it was part of the French and Indian War. It was territorial issues. The French government, the British government, the indigenous people got involved, recruited in some ways. So these were kind of political statements. I may be jumping a little far ahead with the Gaza Strip, but it was a similar thing. His family was abducted, was kidnapped and taken to Canada. And John Fitch, the city was named after, had his outpost garrison, which is now in Ashby. It was part of Lunenburg and part of Pittsburgh, and then part of that. But a lot of these early settlers, particularly what the Stonewall or the Beaver person was talking about in her research, a lot of these early colonists did have slaves. A lot of them did have indentured indigenous people that were working for them or living with them in an indentureship for almost, almost as long as slavery. And quite often these people were some of the people that helped build the stone walls. Not all of them, certainly a lot of, the early farmers after they did their first tree felling and so forth, and cleared fields and things and exposed the earth to the frost more and more stones came up that they had to clear their fields for agriculture, which was certainly a different way of living on the land than the original indigenous people. And so the point is that the stone walls that we see are quite often, maybe evidence of, indigenous or slave labor being involved with some of it anyhow, and not to be something to be ignored, and maybe as a testament or of times gone by and relationships gone by, and they serve a historic reminder to us or purpose to us of many things that could be part of our heritage. So, the U.S. Capitol building was built in the 1840s and 50s by a lot of it by slave labor, and it's from the White House and the White House too. So we have these all around us, and as we become aware of these things, it is needed. Information as a fact, and being able to see it as maybe a way of reminding ourselves of our heritage. All of it, the good and the bad. So, and then I'll finish here. As usual.
Pretty good idea.
Dave's done that.
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
Yeah, that's better. Thanks.
Coordination of signage for Twin City Trail, rail trail, whatever it is. I don't know if you need any updates on that or not. I think I sent out I think we have 3 signs that we're working on. I think we have time to do these. The last meeting, kind of a Zoom meeting we had with the Department of Transportation people, and I believe some of their part of the engineering group that was designing the rail trail, and the final end of it coming into Pittsburgh, noted that they'll be going out to bid for the documents or before the construction, probably sometime by summer. In that the three signs will be in it, and kind of an idea of what the graphics are. But the graphics doesn't need to be completely finished in the bid documents, that we can have some time to do that. So we have 3 signs. I came up with some suggestions of the terminus, maybe a sign over the river as it goes, the ramp incline goes up heading south toward Leominster, and another sign at the Railroad Street and First Street, where the ramp and bridge over the tracks comes down, and the rail trail continues on through the patch on Fort Leominster. So those are 3 locations we're thinking of. The one at the terminus, I don't know, got input from others or something, but I think I sent maybe this one out. There's kind of a welcoming, or saying this is Pittsburgh, and kind of a connection to the rest of Pittsburgh, kind of cultural stuff. This is not a graphic great piece, but it's kind of located cultural things in here, and it's your comment, it's too bad it doesn't have restaurants and things like that. I think the sign will be there longer than restaurants are, so restaurants do change names, et cetera, and not trying to favor any particular commercial venture and just kind of keeping institutional thing, but
Yeah, that's why I thought the kiosk sign.
yeah.
Mill Street would.
So it's something like, welcome to Pittsburgh's re-emerging urban center combining business culture and residential living. So that was one thought. The second, the sign at the patch would be the third sign. We have two parts. One of them kind of recognizing that you're entering or just have gone through the patch. And this is a part of a panorama image I found on the Library of Congress website. So I think it's usable by us or
It's pretty good, yeah.
it shows the St. Bernard's Church,
Yeah.
Parish House, and kind of all the buildings there and railroad things happening.
It's a nice clear drawing of what's there.
1890s.
That's really cool.
It's too, okay.
Yeah.
And then reference to it being, Irish immigrants, Italian immigrants, and the real mix of cultures, which is kind of evident in a lot of Pittsburgh neighborhoods. I think that could be lightened up a little bit, put on a plaque along with the, you know, and maybe there's a little highlight around it so people can understand that you are here or something like that. It's a little bit similar to the images in the First Street Park, a little basketball court and some sitting areas and stuff. But it mentions the patch, but doesn't really get into kind of the history of the patch and immigrants and coming to Pittsburgh. And I think that would be a nice thing to include.
Looks like on Fifth Street there, it's got the school that was there. It's pretty neat. You don't see many pictures of that.
Isn't here?
Yeah, that building, Fifth Street School, I think it was. Where'd you say you got this from? Like Library of Congress?
Yeah, just went on the web, the Library of Congress, Pittsburgh. And there's all kinds of things that are in the Library of Congress. And was able to download it. It gives you options on how many pixels you want, or, you know, like how much size I want to. This is like a 14 meg document or something. This is just a piece of it, but it all came out very clear on the download on it. Second part of that is at the number 3, along with the patch information, the second part of it was to kind of talk about the river, because you can kind of see the river at the end of First Street there. You just look off to your left as you get up on this ramp going up over, you'll be able to see the river. And talking about the river being quite important for the colonial settlement and beyond, and how the river played a part in harnessing the water power and creating industry along the river. So saying the river is really part of the history of Pittsburgh, and this was 54. So just after the railroad arrived, 1840, and it shows a couple of railroad lines, one going to Leominster and beyond, one going to Boston and beyond.
And the dams.
But it shows, you know, there's still a lot of mill power happening at this time, that, you know, coal and steam power was not surplacing or substituting for water power,
Mhm.
which was sometimes intermittent and dry spells, the mills didn't run, et cetera, or somebody upstream was damming up all the water and there's no water coming down your dam, and you would run your mill. But this kind of shows a lot of the mill work with it kind of shows the dam, then it shows the mill, then it shows the exit raceway of the water that goes back and joins the river rapids, and then it's falling on the machinery and the work system. So maybe a picture of that. Also talking about the river and the importance for early industrialization. And then the one over the middle one over the river would have,
They call three ponds on there, milk ponds.
Yeah.
All the same name
Yeah.
on that.
the one up by Factory Square and up by Copperfield and things like that. The big runs down through there.
So,
And the mill in that area back where Safety Fund or back behind the Congregational Church, that big space there, that was called the Park Hill Mill. Park Hill, I think, mill. And that was a big deal at the time. I think it was really, that's where the kind of the Factory Square area kind of
came to me.
maybe centered around a lot of that in the future.
Yeah.
That's my calling job on there. I couldn't keep within the lines of them.
It almost seems those ponds, they did away with them, just let the river come straight through, channel it through,
Yeah.
instead of having ponds or.
It was interesting reading that Beaver book also talking about how,
Yeah.
control flooding, while the beavers were controlling flooding a long time ago.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that was kind of
Yeah.
for a long time, it was thought that, remove the dams that humans have put in and allow the rivers to flow freely like they used to back in, before,
Yeah.
Europeans. Well, they didn't flow freely.
Yeah.
There was a lot of wetlands that,
The beavers had created
beaver built dams.
the wetlands.
Wetlands that absorbed,
Excess water.
excess water, yes, and provided, habitat for fish and other, animals. So our notion that, the rivers flowing between levees, that's a total misconception.
Yeah.
Maybe the Colorado River, the Grand Canyon did that, but as they can be determined, beavers were everywhere. Estimates run the tens of millions of beavers.
Yeah. Amazing history of, mainly, colonization and the fur trade that demise, they were all gone. And they had to be re-brought back in.
I don't know if you've been watching the Ken Burns Buffalo.
No, I started watching a little bit, I didn't, but that would be
It's so hard to watch. I mean, which is an indication of how well it's done. I can only watch bits and pieces of it.
This is for the middle sign, which is more 1890s industrialization. After the railroad, when coal became the main energy source instead of water, and was able to be a steady energy supply to run the mills that are already been established along the river valley. The railroad came through, following the river, so within proximity of the existing mills. was able to deliver soon after the railroad came in. I'm sure they were able to start delivering coal. They came from probably Pennsylvania to provide the energy source for constant running of the machinery year round. And so the railroad was important. And in the 1890s, the magnitude of the railroad, right behind where it's where Market Basket Plaza is now, was all railroad yard, all the way up through there. Included roundhouses and, locomotive repair areas. Certainly, the passenger terminal is a covered walkway that's like a quarter-mile long or something like that, running around the curve. I think that shows the old depot building there, with the towers. Necessarily gets there too. But the idea being this middle sign would be looking at kind of the heyday of industry in Fitchburg. And along with that graphic, it would be pictures of the various mill buildings at the time, including the Barkdale Mill, the Putnam Mills, the Fitchburg Machine Company, which is where Fitchburg Plumbing is now. And so putting in a kind of like this has little vignettes of like buildings along it, along with the text, kind of explaining the railroad.
And this is from the Library of Congress.
Yeah. Yes, I think. This is a Sanborn map. Sanborn maps were created for just about all communities with industrial sites in them, and they were used for insurance purposes. So each one of these factory buildings, it'll note the size of it and how many floors it has. And this was a finishing building, and this was L.R. Goodnow Iron Foundry. And each of the sheds has a little title on it. And there's dimensions on all the buildings. So it's kind of like a fire insurance thing. If my building's burned down, here's the official record. So these draftsmen that come around and resurvey each city, kind of like assessors, but it was for the insurance industry. And they would keep updates, and they have, there's some amazing things that, all over Pittsburgh. This is just one map. This is 1890s. Yeah, 1887.
That's incredible.
And it has, this document is just one of 17 documents for Pittsburgh. So it includes all of West Pittsburgh, all the Crocker Mills. It includes the McTaggart Dam that's up in Rockville, which is kind of, where the British American Club is there, and that stream that runs out there. If you go up the hill, back up into there, it goes up into Westminster Hill Road. And the community is called Rockville. There's a street there called Sanborn Street, ironically. But it shows all of the mill buildings and some of the residential buildings and stuff. And they're all recorded, but the size of the buildings were what they're used was for.
That's incredible that it's only 137 years ago.
Yeah.
That entire area was so different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One would have no idea.
If you go up, drive up in there, if you go once upon a tile, Westminster Road is, if you drive up
To the right.
2A, yeah, you stay to the right as you're approaching it to the right side, go up the hill there, and I think it's your little bit of an estimate, if you're up fairly high, and maybe your first left, there's a road going back down, which is Westminster Hill Road. It continues off to the east, also or northeast, and that goes down very close to where that McTaggart Dam is. And you cross over a little rickety bridge where that whatever the stream is that goes through there, actually has a name. If you turn down in there, there's some old factory buildings, fairly new, and they're almost like 1900s. But along that driveway going down is it remains of a wooden water duct that comes from the dam. The Tigers Dam is made from wood, like barrel slats. Mm-hmm. It's got iron bands around it, you know, like turnbuckle things you'd find on a silo or something like it. This is a 3 or 4 foot diameter wooden duct that runs down through there, and there's remains of it. You can still see some of the boards and stuff, but where the water was channeled. And think of the water pressure you'd have, because it really goes down, you know, 80, 100 feet or something like that. The head of water, the energy behind that water, to be able to run it on a turbine or something down that far down the hill in one of these smaller, you know, another one factory to the next, just like these that are all kind of lined up from each other. And just it's say, wow, yeah. No, piece of that stuff are still there.
That wooden waterway is still there.
Mm.
It's still there.
It's there's remnants of it still there. The water's not running through it, but it's
that should be high on the preservation list.
Yeah.
yes, you know.
So if you started at that McTaggart's Pond Dam, and you kind of
Yeah, it's just
headed downhill from there,
Yeah,
see some of them.
yeah, it's worth
And did that come out roughly by the British American Club area, something like that, or is that kind of where that water?
Yeah, there used to be the steam line that runs up
Oh, yeah.
past there, the kind of elevated thing goes under the bridge, and over the bridge. I don't know if it's still there. But that follows the stream out, and I'm sure it was steam for those. And I think Crocker owned some of those mills up there for a while. I don't think he started, but probably bought the, anyway. We'll go from there.
Interesting stuff, yeah.
It's diverging, but it's interesting now. Remnants of our industrial. And the water part of it. They still use water for processing even after they had steam. They needed water for, washing away the chemicals and rinsing off all the processing stuff that they used. And certainly, maybe even more so after the railroad came through. All right. Historic. That's easy rail trail. So we're working on that, and I will continue coming up with some images I'll share with you how these things might be coming together. And we'll there's others we think we should share them with, get some input. And I think a goal is certainly by the end of spring, we might have enough information to pass on to the designers there or get a consensus from the rest of the administration. Perhaps from the historical society just to verify pieces. And getting enough documents that are copyright free
Oh, yeah.
that we can put
That's what
together.
they were asking for.
Yeah. Update on the historic district information brochure. I don't think I got a large copy for you and this is almost the actual sample.
Maybe not print out.
I dropped it off to Ellen, I never got one to Don.
Yes, I got it.
This is for kind of this has turned out very dark. I should take jet on paper and just keep bleeding forever. It's getting a little bit dark. It might be something we want to tune it up, but it's kind of a last edit before we try to do some printing. I dropped it off, copy to the mayor's office. She got that the same night and said she loved it and came up with a typo that Rollstone.
Typo.
That was a good.
I'm,
Just the actual size it will be.
this will be the actual size.
And then it gets folded.
11 by 17.
It's a brochure format. I say.
Without the white edges. Okay. Just with, a couple of things with your blessing and the others that want to use. On the middle top piece where it says historic areas represent, at the bottom of it, it lists the resources, maps, historical society, Pittsburgh Public Library. And I thought we should probably put our website on there too.
Oh, good idea.
So I'm thinking of adding that to the bottom. There is a date of June 23. We'll change that. To the panel to the left that says Fitchburg, Massachusetts, and goes on to some history. My wife read it, and she said in the second paragraph where near the end, it says, over this early period, other mills were established. She would like to substitute the word during this early period instead of over, is a better descriptive word.
Okay. Yep. I don't know if that should fit.
I never doubt my wife. Where I'm in trouble. And on the map area, there's the Rollstone R. I'm thinking of adding just as kind of a place finder and to put in Pittsburgh State University on here as just a location, and maybe up somewhere near Pearl Street in that little open space where the main library and buildings are. Pittsburgh, since the state was helping us do all the graphics and things on this too, so I thought it might be just to add that in there. And I'm also thinking at the bottom of the map area where it has a number of locations. Number 4, Swedish Congregational Church, 1893. To indent the second line so it's so the numbers stand out better. So it's the easy fix just to put all those indents in the second line. So far I have nothing on no edits on the other side of the 6 areas. I have, this past week or 7 days, I've dropped off a copy of this along with a digital copy to Mark Dohan with Newview and asking them to look at the whole piece, and particularly the Academy Street district, to make sure that they're represented properly in here. I saw Mark briefly, and he liked the photograph. He said, "I'm never sure not to done with our project." And I dropped off a copy to Fitchburg State people that are working on the theater complex. And they're the ones that are actually working to create the Upper Common Historic District National Register application for that. Not a historic district. It's not a National Register district yet. But I'd just like to get their approval of the wording and what we put in for the Upper Common and any other comments they have on the whole piece, but particularly their piece of that. So with those two players getting back to us with either endorsement or any changes on their write-up and the boundaries, since they're a little fluid. And these other comments, I think we can come up with final drafts, and we need to see about getting printing done. And I don't know how many of these we should print up. But again, maybe trying to focus to have this done by May and have the kind of the official launching of it and hand out to people who come to the particular, to the gathering in Restoration Month. And also making them available and handouts, slot stands like City Hall, Historical Society, Chamber, etc. And also mention to the people at the university that these might be a nice, a brochure like this might be a nice thing to have at the admissions office.
Sure.
So that when students and parents come to take a look at the city and drive up,
See what's around.
they'll see that there's more than just something on it's just the history of the city.
Right.
So it might be, and for recruiting staff and faculty for any of the companies like Fitchburg State or people, recruiting people to work with. Or an idea of what at least some of the historical background is.
Very good. Something good.
Now, this is what I sent to the university, and we could maybe put their little logos in up on North Street. It's above where the recreation center is. Makes it look closer. Way up at Pearl Street.
You do have room to add another number line, right?
Yeah.
If you want to put a number on their location.
Well, that's not actually, the university has 3 great H.M. Francis buildings that they own.
Oh, they did. On the
Actually
campus.
4.
Yeah.
But 2 in their campus, which is Thompson Hall and Edgerly Hall, they're both H.M. Francis.
Sure.
Although they're not in this list, the survey, it's still a piece.
Sure.
It's not quite downtown too. And they also own
And they had downtown.
the old ladies home up on Cedar Street.
Oh,
Fitchburg State owns that. And they also own on Day Street, they own the old Universalist Church building there, the one with the big fancy towers.
Mm-hmm. That was a Francis too.
That's under 21 here, Fitchburg State owns that. Let's see.
You know about the Ivor Johnson home on don't know if it's like Highland Ave or something that way,
Yeah.
where it's now like the university president's house or something.
Yes,
You know,
yeah.
was that a Francis too? You know,
It's,
it's a beautiful building.
there's been a lot of research on to find out who designed it,
Uh,
and we can't find anything that says that he did it.
mhm.
There were other architects working in the area,
Sure.
and other grand old homes as that. We had never done on other architects, so it's nice to do that. I know the university wanted one of our plaques to say that.
Yeah.
You know, and it says, you know, we couldn't really document.
Mhm.
But it'd be great to find out. If you're going to do it or not.
Right.
Main Street Buildings History is Historic District Tax Credits and other pieces. The number 11 on the agenda is kind of ties in a little bit with what we're doing for the May Preservation Month. So whether we have the total, all of the Main Street buildings that we can have handouts on at that time is, be nice to have. And I think we need to, see if anybody else wants to volunteer to help kind of get that information on all of the buildings. I know Ellen was thinking maybe, seeing if we can get Charles involved with doing portraits of each of the buildings that could be in front of each little write-up or buildings along Main Street. It would be nice to have for downtown for Preservation Month. It would, I don't know if I have time to kind of work on that, and Ellen wants to. And she would, like some help on that, so any volunteers would be great. Number 12, commission membership vacancies.
How about number 10? Did you want to say anything about that?
10 historic markers. Sorry. No updates. The last one was a month or so ago, I think, which was at the head of the common there, the brick building, corner mechanic. Prospect.
Yeah. I saw the new one on the Drury building downtown.
Yes.
Looks pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, he had 2 on there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think he applied for it, and it was taking a while to come, and they had somebody else make one up. They couldn't get them for
Oh, really?
any.
Yeah, I suppose anybody could make one, I suppose.
Used to be in the back of Yankee magazine. You could get, you know, markers, and,
Yeah.
you know, address markers. Actually,
Sure.
yeah, 2 of them, they're both old. And, yeah, it was nice to see that done, and people,
Yeah.
you know, kind of recognizing what the buildings. Right. 10, 11, Main Street buildings. Number 12, commission membership. I've contacted one of the larger real estate companies in the general area here. And asked them if they have any members. I heard back from their owner saying that he might have some suggestions. That was just earlier today that I heard back from him. And so hopefully I'll hear back shortly to see if we have some people interested in that.
Yeah, I'm still in contact with a lawyer, resident of Fishkill, who has said that he would like to come to one of our meetings. So,
Okay.
Coming a member.
Did you want to send him an agenda for next agenda? Okay, good. Great. Any other thoughts from anybody? We greatly appreciate it. Website additions, links to his architectural styles, and National Park Service preservation briefs, that's what NPS stands for, etc. This is a project that I'm slowly working on. It's been on the agenda for several months now and nothing to show for it. So I hopefully, we'll have some pieces to update our website. I'll show it to the commission before posting. 14, reservations projects funds, which is usually a matching grant program. The application deadline is coming up in a month and a half. And any new business? Next meeting scheduled for new business. Is there something you had discussing on new business?
I was just asking you about the library project, but
Yeah,
Can we
I'm
get
not
off
sure.
of line?
There was some information on FATV about some permitting issues with the library after the bids were accepted.
I see.
I haven't heard anything factual beyond that, so I think it's being resolved, so. And I reached out to the library facilities director of the city that, let us know if we can be of any help. Okay, I think that's it. 5:05. Next meeting is 3 p.m. February 29th. So last Thursday, February ever, at least for 4 more years. But
Yeah.
last Thursday, who knows? Soon that'll come up, yeah. So,
Oh, yeah.
motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you very much. This ends the commission's meeting.